I like salad. Do you like salad?
Hi, I'm Hostion Ho. I'm living in Vancouver, BC, Canada, unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'm an immigrant to Canada from China.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea coming to you from Victoria, but more importantly known as unceded Akwesasne territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, and I am an immigrant from the United States of America. And you're listening to
Canadian salad.
Canadian salad.
Hi everyone,
Welcome back. Happy April. It's the fourth month with
April.
four letters in it. So is four though is a bad number for you, isn't it?
Yeah, 4 is a bad number in China
So-
because it's seen as a number of death.
Shoot.
It sounds like the word death.
Oh no, April is a month of death. No, it's not. We're not going to make
No,
it
it's
that
not.
way.
No, because in here, April is the spring, right? That
That's true.
season of
That's
abundance
true.
and
It's
life and
beautiful.
renewal.
Indeed. Well, I was really sad to learn daffodils. Did you know those
Daffodils, yeah.
are they're an invasive species.
Oh, I didn't know
They
that.
are not a native plant.
But they are like a
The
symbol for
Dutch.
like
It was their fault.
they are a symbol for cancer, no? Also here.
Yeah, they might be. But cancer's
Like
also
for cancer cure
invasive.
for cancer cure.
It's also invasive. Ooh.
Yeah, so it's
Both
oh,
the
maybe that's
flower
why.
and cancer are. Maybe that's why. Anyway, well, we're not going to talk about
Anyway,
invasive species or diseases
cancer.
today, nor cancer.
Yeah.
No, exactly. But we're going to talk about the language of money. Money.
Yes. We all use money every day, obviously. The
Yes.
society in many ways runs on money.
Yeah.
We all need money to survival. Let's talk about our personal relationships with money. How about that? What is your
No.
relationship with money? How do you see money? Are you a saver? Are you a spender? Do you hold a lot of value to it? Do you see money as a source of happiness or distress?
Oh
All of that.
gosh. Oh
A big
yeah.
topic,
So
sorry.
very big. I'll try to keep it brief so no one hears
Yeah.
my life story with it. But I did grow up relatively poor compared to a lot of like middle income families. So we grew up in a mobile home, which got tin siding and everything like that. It wasn't mobile. I don't know why they're called mobile homes. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But we grew up poor, one income. My dad worked probably 60, 70 hours a week. And as the oldest child, I was given the responsibility of when my mom wanted to go grocery shopping, that I knew the value of dollar for the items. So I would always be comparing the cost of the unit to the total cost. So I would compare brands like, oh, this is cheaper per unit than this one, so we're going to buy this one, right? So
Yeah.
I was always afraid of it. We always had to make money stretch. I think my first job was at 15 at McDonald's. And so I didn't have a very healthy relationship with money other than it was a stress factor. And after growing up, I think my first credit card was probably, I can't remember. I was probably in my late 20s. But I did buy a house. So I did have enough credit score to buy a house in my late 20s. But I think for me, money is it's a relationship always. There are days where I hate it because I feel like it determines so much of our decisions, the jobs that I take on or the things that we buy. At the same time, I understand that money also enables some freedom to, let's say, go on a short vacation. So it's hit or miss with me. So
Yeah.
yeah. How about you?
Okay. I would say somewhat a similar story to you because I also grew up poor, growing up very poor with my family. We also had just, 4 walls and that's it. So at that time, I didn't really realize what poor means because everyone is similar. And until to a certain point, I think maybe to my teenage years, I realized, oh my God, and then I go to bigger city to study, and I realized that some more people just have more stuff than me or they carry themselves very differently. Back then, I didn't know why, but now I just know that because they just have more money and that they carry themselves very differently as well and treat other people differently
Interesting.
as well.
Yeah.
When I was older, my family also got kind of financially get better, but then also I feel like my family dynamics and situation also get worse once somehow our financial situation gets better. Maybe my parents slowly have more needs and more arguments, and even my mom said it once told me that she she thinks when they were younger, when they were just got married, which they had nothing, and life was so much simpler, and they were only all they worry about is putting food on the table, and they were just happier, nothing
Mm,
else in their mind. And once they had more money, they started wanting more, asking for more, and feel like the current lives or it's just not enough for them, and they become
yeah.
greedy and kind of shift the relationship many ways, and then now they're divorced. So just using them as example, also see how the negative connotation that money can bring to my family. So it definitely make me feel some sort of way. And then once I was financial independent, which when I go after I graduated, so become more financially independent, I definitely not necessarily a saver. I won't say myself a good saver. I'm mostly a spender because I was young first, and
Sure.
second, and I never really had money. I never really had money at my
Yeah.
disposal. So I never
Yeah.
really understand the concept of saving, I guess. So
Yes.
it was later in my years, I realized, maybe like end of my 20s, I realized, okay, I need to start saving.
Right.
Because I think it's the pressure of living or having a future slowly hits
It
more, I
does.
would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I think also moving to North America also
Yeah.
made me realize people here doesn't really save. It's not really a culture here to save. If
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then also kind of I guess allowed me to not save. But
Yeah.
then of course once to a certain age you realize you really have to save if you want
Yes.
certain things to happen for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I resonate with so much of that too. And I think when you grow up with barely anything, I feel this a huge guilt because I know that so many people don't have, and then to have abundance, it is always just this like, oh, it's hard. It's hard to navigate everyday life
Yeah,
with
I think that's a definitely interesting. Our experience, I think, shapes how we see money.
for
Uh,
sure.
yeah, but then also we share a lot of commonality too. Let's get into the language of money, and
Okay.
let's talk about how money actually shapes us, our differences and our similarities. And
Okay.
let's start with similarities first. Um, so money changes everything for us in a psychological kind of level for all of us. There's this article by Huffington Post in 2017, which
Okay.
again, all the source will be on our website, and it breaks down many of the things that money would change us. And I will point out some specific things I want to discuss. The first thing you would change, for example, is empathy.
Okay. In what
This research,
yeah.
yeah, if research shows that people in a lower income bracket or lower economic status actually were better at reading people's facial expressions.
Really?
Though they are, which is that itself is a very important marker of empathy, obviously. And wealthier people somehow are less like has a lower ability to read people's expressions. But I can see how that comes to be though, because I think maybe especially if you're from a wealthy household, maybe you don't really necessarily care, like need to care about other people because everyone want to suck up to you or pay you so much respect just because you have money. And for
Yeah.
poor or lower economic status people, they somehow have to deal with many more people just to get by, to live, to get a
Yeah.
living.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah. You
I
almost are
think,
in this phase when you're, sorry, just when you're in lower income, sometimes you are
yeah,
doing anything that you can to make that next dollar come in. So it might be saying yes to the shift that your boss really wants you to take while putting up with,
yeah,
their attitudes or I don't know, but that is a very interesting.
yeah. So I think, as you mentioned, that people with lower income households have to works so much harder
Yeah.
in terms of relationship with the other people to
Mhm.
just maybe make that money, make the extra dollar, make the extra
Yeah,
shift. So they have to kind of have that extra skill to be better at dealing with people just for that specific reason.
that
So I
makes
can definitely
sense.
see why people have more empathy if they are generally
Mhm.
from a lower income bracket. And the second thing is they will change our moral judgment.
Interesting.
Yes, there's a UC Berkeley study found that wealth may cause a sense of moral entitlement.
Yes. And we
Yes,
see this with very wealthy people on our planet right now and the way that they treat other people. Yeah.
exactly. I think that is I don't think necessarily is a shocking factor or
No.
finding for us to kind of realize. But the research I just mentioned, they have a specific example, which I find it also really true that I can definitely see that. That in San Francisco, drivers of luxury cars were found 4 times less likely than those in less expensive vehicles to stop and allow pedestrians to pass.
Oh my gosh. That happened to
Yeah,
me
that
on Salt
four
Spring
times.
Island.
Oh, really?
The Tesla drivers, the EV drivers were just like pedestrians don't exist here. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, dude. Anyway, but that was Salt Spring Island. But that is, yes, yes. I can
yeah,
see
and
that. I mean,
also,
there are people with higher incomes that can be very generous. This isn't to say
yeah.
like everyone,
Of course,
but
the research, yeah, it's very
right.
general, obviously.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Not saying everyone is like that, but there's a tendency
Right.
from data. And then they also research from Harvard and University of Utah also found that money could lead to unethical behaviors. And the research found that participants were more likely to lie or behave immorally after being exposed to money-related works. So if certain thing with money is on the line on a certain task, people were more likely to lie or behave in immoral way just because money is on the line.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
humanity.
Humanity. But I think if you actually relate that to someone who is more poor and has
Hmm.
literally almost to nothing, what more do they have to lose?
True. So moral becomes
The
something can easily,
stakes
yeah,
are, yeah,
disposable. Can
yeah.
easily disposable. In the face of survival, moral is nothing
Mm-hmm.
in many
Mm-hmm.
ways, which
Mm-hmm.
history has taught me many of those lessons.
Yeah.
Um, yep. And then the next one is addiction.
Okay. Okay. Do tell.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
my God. You know, a side note, a lot of us always assume people like for lower income bracket usually have way high addiction and tendency. That's why they become homeless. That's why they become this addicts on the streets. But actually,
Mm,
research found the other way, opposite.
mm,
The
mm,
opposite.
mm-hmm.
Actually, people from a wealthier family had higher tendencies of addiction. They usually just have money to deal with that. Because many reasons. One is usually children from wealthier families usually have way higher pressure to achieve, or they have way high percentage from isolation from parents.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would cause a lot of mental stress and depression, even to cause addiction in many way. And
Yeah. I
also
mean,
it,
yeah.
yeah, go
Go
on.
ahead. Oh,
No, no,
sorry.
go on. Yeah,
I was just going to say, so your first 2 points, empathy and moral judgment. So, right. So if you are from wealthier families, your ability to have empathy for your child or to create an empathetic space is going to be lessened. And then your ability to create
exactly.
moral judgment, you might have multiple affairs. Like we see this with a lot of wealthy people and how, disgusting they were to women or how dishonest they were on their taxes, whatever. So it does emotionally impact the generation that experiences that. And I can see where that just makes sense. I mean, it's not the sole cause, but that just it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and that on top of that, in that we just talk about children's, from welfare family, but even the adults,
Mm.
this research found that they outdrink the poor by more than 27%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is they
That's a
they
lot.
drink so much more. Yeah, that's they
Yeah.
drink so much
I mean,
more.
they can afford it, but
Oh,
also
true.
they're not happy, right? Because money,
Yeah.
well, we're going to talk about happiness, but
Yeah, and the last part, all we'll talk about all of that addiction, empathy, moral judgment, and last part we're gonna talk about is happiness. We always
yes.
tend to believe that money can buy the happiness or can buy love, and I think the academics would say not the case. Even though
Yes.
money can buy some level of happiness, with many research found across the world, actually, some research from research in Hong Kong, research in UK, in the US have found that a certain level of money income
Mm,
excuse me, can buy happiness. If your income over that kind of basic needs of food and shelter,
yeah.
then no matter how much more money you make, that the correlation of how much you make and happiness slowly to decrease.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that I think the conclusion here is we need definitely some sort of amount of money to survive, to live. And once that basic need is met, our happiness is not solely relying on money.
Right. Right.
And actually, research even found that extreme affluent people actually suffer higher rates of depression. So actually, the once to to a really wealthy level, you actually have a higher chance to be not happy.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And for, you know, like all those reasons you mentioned, but also if that is the focus or if that's the driving factor for most of your decisions in life and the things that you pursue, the relationships you make, it does fall short because, you know, money it's a form of currency. It's right, that piece of paper. And that's not
Yeah.
a relationship. That is, yeah, it's an
And
object.
And also because usually people in these ultra wealth kind of families, usually also is a statement of how they see money. Usually those people are the one who strive ceaselessly strive for wealth, for money, and that kind of mentality, of course, is destined to lead to dissatisfaction because greed is a hole you can never fill. That also one is why they're usually higher linked to dissatisfaction in life in general or depression, all of
Right.
that. And also to lead to another point is many research also found that material value have been linked to lower relationship satisfaction. So if
Yeah.
someone really strive for this material wealth, it only means their relationship is gonna eventually gonna break down if that's
Right.
the only thing they're looking for,
Right.
more than that this
Exactly.
meaningful, connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and that is how money changes us.
Gosh, money does change it. Yeah, it totally does. And it's always changing us. I don't think that
Hmm.
that money is something that we're like, well, I've mastered that thing about money. You know, it's always maybe an opportunity presents itself, or maybe we lose a bunch of money, or maybe we inherit a bunch of money. I mean, it's an ebb and flow, and I think it's a relationship that will last until, well, we die. I mean, because when we're
Yes,
dead,
exactly.
like all the money doesn't go anywhere, so it stays here. So, but anyway, yeah.
Exactly. So that's similarities of us. And then there's
Yeah.
also, of course, money across culture are very different. And money
Yes.
in many cultures have different practices as well. For example, in gifting, I think is no secret that in China, for example, we love to give money as gifts,
Yes.
especially like New Year, like
Yes.
birthdays, weddings. Like my parents, they will give me money on my birthdays, like in weddings. I know in
Oh.
Yeah, like I know in weddings, like here in Canada, people like have like a gift registry, so people can just choose to give to gift.
Hmm.
In China, it's not. It just give money.
Which
Not just
makes a
China,
lot
in
more sense.
Thailand, yeah,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
many Asian
Hmm.
countries, many collective countries, money is the gift that you give, and the
It's
closer you are to the family, the more money you give.
Yeah, and that's interesting because in Western culture, there is no specific holiday where you like money is like the thing that you do to give to someone. So people might do it for birthdays, they might do it for weddings. It's really dependent upon the person. But having a holiday that actually is, no, this is an essential part of this day, there is none. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and
I
I think
mean,
that's yeah.
we love money. I think
I
Chinese love money. We even have a god of money. Literally.
What's the
There's no
name of the
secret
god?
there.
What's the
It's
name of the
literally
god?
called wealth god. They're the god of money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, god
Okay.
of money.
I need to talk to that god. No, I'm kidding.
The other aspect of money was borrow money. I know
Mm,
there's also huge different individualistic culture, like Canada, and collective culture like China.
yes,
Um, like I know borrowing money here is a very sensitive
it is.
thing.
It is.
Yeah,
It
maybe
is.
yeah,
Well, I remember it was this idea that, well, you don't ask for money once you've left the house, you know, that you're considered a mooch if you keep asking mom and dad for money or brother, sister, you know, and this very negative stereotype around borrowing money from people. And if you do borrow money, you have to pay that back. Like that is something you pay back, right? I loaned it to you, so pay me back. And it's
okay,
checks and balances. So at least that's my experience in the States. And I know in Canada it's not far behind. So what would you
yeah,
say as far as borrowing money and collectivist cultures? I would assume it's like, no, you borrow from me, I give to you. I mean, I have a friend, she's from the Philippines. She
yeah,
paid for
yeah.
her nephew's college. She works so hard. She works so many hours because she's saving up money and she's sending it back at home, or she's supporting financially people that live here with her. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
just the mentality. And it brings her, well, it looks like, I mean, anytime she talks about it, she has so much joy when she talks about the fact that she's helping her family. And so
Yeah,
very different. Would you say
it's
that
very,
that's
yeah, I
similar to
think
China? Yeah.
it's very different. It's very different. In China, um, I know Philippines is very special, but we'll get back to it later. But in China in
Yeah.
general, that because again, it's a collective culture. I think people just kind of rely on the collective in terms of
Yeah.
financial problems.
Hmm.
So people definitely rely on family members or even friends.
Hmm.
Um, like for example, in times of financial needs or risk, it's very common for people to stay with their family if they're, had need financial help and then ask money from family or even borrow money from friends. I know when my father was having a lot of financial troubles, like he didn't ask for banks for money. He didn't go and get a loan. He just asked his friends.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course he got them, and then yeah, and same as like my brother, for example, my brother still stays at home, and my parents still sometimes pay for him, and he's like a 29-year-old, not 20,
Mm,
27-year-old adult now, and I know
okay.
that sometimes um in here I would say that's a very would maybe frown upon or
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean it's still kind of frowned
Depending
upon,
on
but
the
it's
relationship.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's still kind of frowned upon in China, just not I won't say it's as much has as much of a social kind of influence as here.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's definitely different.
Yeah.
Um, and it's especially in terms of like borrowing money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like as a kid, like as a son, I am expected to take care of family financially if now that I'm financial independent. And I would send money home. Every time I go back to China to visit my family, I have to give them some money. That's kind of expected. Again,
Wow.
is the kind of collective mentality. And I remember
Yeah.
when I told my friends that, they were like, "What? You have to send money home? What is that?" Like, it's
Mm,
a
hmm.
concept that they are not familiar
Hmm.
or even
Hmm.
shocked, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah,
of I think that is different. One of the major difference.
for sure.
The next one, we're gonna talk about saving money or spending money.
Okay.
Um, I think in Asia in general, we have a like collective culture in general have a more of a culture to save money and less of spending money.
Okay.
I know the West has always been that this kind of famous stereotype of spending money from the future,
Yes,
spending
that's
future
credit.
money. It's credit,
That's
yeah.
credit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
the idea of using credit, like using money that you don't have, spending money you don't have is a crazy idea.
We've
Even
got,
when I was younger.
yeah, yeah. And we now have like fake money. We've got Dogecoin. Some bozo,
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yeah, some bozo is just like, well, this is money, and everyone's like, okay, I'm like, what? What? Oh, anyway, I digress. But saving money, yes, saving money is very unique depending on the family. I think in the Western Hemisphere, um, and depending on your value and where you see money, for sure.
Yeah. Saving money is such a big deal in collective culture. Like even we have different ways of saving money. Like for example, in collective culture, we have specific mechanism to help people to save. For example, in Latin America and Caribbeans, they have this thing called tenda, which is
Okay.
similar. And there's a similar thing in South America. They call it stovek,
Okay.
stockvel. And
Okay.
then also in China is something called 存钱会. They're all different names, but they're all at the end
Okay.
of the same. It's the same thing. It's the same mechanism that usually is like a selective group of people, or you have to enroll, maybe register, but you have to be kind of like invitation only, or you have to kind of go through a process to be selected to go into be in this group, and
Okay.
then all members of this group have to contribute or save to a collective account every month
Okay.
every month. And then usually in a certain period of time, this account will pay out all that money to one individual. Everyone take turns to receive that money. So let's
Okay.
say a typical example would be, let's say we have 5 people in this group.
Okay.
Everyone contribute $10 to this account
Okay.
every month.
Okay.
And then every month, at the end of this every month, once everyone contributed, they would pay to A, B, C, D, like the 10 people take turns
Each
to receive that
person.
money, each person.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it forces you to save. And because when you contributed, the money is in that account. If it's not your turn to receive it, you won't receive it. So you cannot use that money once it's in there until it's paid to you. So
Mm,
it really helps you to
mm,
save. Depends how many people are in that group.
mm.
Because
Wow.
you can access to that money, but you will receive
Yeah.
that money
Yeah.
eventually.
And you know that it costs you something, like, you know, it's going to cost you, let's say you're $10. So you're invested in that way. And then when you
Yeah,
receive that return on investment, it means a lot. So then you give back because eventually it'll come back around to you. So,
yeah.
you know, it is costing you something, but you're also receiving. So it is a very unique way and very different from what I'm
It's
at
really
all
different.
used
Yeah.
to. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you receive that money and of course you get back as much as you put back into, but it's
Mm,
just a habit for people to force people to put in to save and to forbid them to use it until the money is actually get
I,
to them.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea too. So it's very popular in many collective culture and
Mhm.
again, many different names, but it's all the
Yeah.
same thing.
But
And it's
looking at
not
the
here.
collective and the community as opposed to a financial institution or the government
Exactly.
or, right? Yeah, which I think has its
Hmm.
own set of issues and problems, you know, and not that any system is perfect, but you know what I mean? I think that there is a strength when you can trust one another, when you can,
Yeah.
right? You
I
know,
agree. I
because
agree.
trusting an institution versus, you know, your neighbor or, like, let's say a really good friend or family member, it's going to
Hmm.
look different. Yeah.
I know, I know. This is I also love that idea. I just wish that maybe we should have something in Canada like that. Or maybe there is, we just never heard of it because it's not
Right.
popular.
That's
At least I
true. But
never heard of it.
I can see it really giving a leg up for a lot of people who are really trying, like people who are maybe on the
Trying to
streets
save, yeah,
trying
we're
to
trying to
save.
save,
Yeah. Well,
try to
and
get themselves out of
I do remember that when I worked with VERX, when I worked in an immigration organization, I remember there were refugees that would come in and they would cash their check and then they would put their money in like an envelope or under the mattress or in their drawer, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if someone needed money, they would give it out. But then everyone was saying, well, but then you need to build credit. And they're like, what's credit? Why do I need to build this score? You know, I don't want to put my money in a bank. I don't trust banks, depending on their
Yeah,
experience, right? Right. If,
yeah.
especially if they're refugees, right? Like there's so much systemic distrust. And so that is a whole renegotiation of like mindset perspective because we are very much in the West about the banking institution and the financial bodies, and everyone else is really like, no, my brother needs money. I've got the money. It's in my dresser drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think is very different way of thinking, but the banking system itself, which, of course, all of this collective country also have banks, but that system
Yes.
itself is all very much invented and developed by the
Yes.
Western countries. It's a game developed by them. And then now the bank system go into
It
all these
is.
collective countries and we from a
Yeah.
complete different culture perspective have to play that game that is not
Yep.
invented or for us.
Yep.
But if you don't play that game, you can't, in an international level, you
It
can't do
cripples
anything.
you.
It cripples you really.
Exactly.
You can't even
Yeah.
transfer money. Like you cannot, because you can just transfer money from one country to another country, because even you bring cash with you, there's a limit how much you can bring to a country. So you have to
Right.
use this.
And they'll tax you for the money that you
Yeah,
bring
yeah, or
in.
that. Yeah. So you have to play that game that is not
Yeah.
invented for people from collective country, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
it is.
We were talking about saving money.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a lot of research of kind of to look into why the West and the East had such different saving habits. This research from Singapore Economic Review, titled Culture and Savings. Why do
Okay.
Asians save more? I'm gonna look into the reasons and the kind of the general trend, and they saw that there's a way higher saving ratio, concentrated in Confucianism countries
Okay.
of the East Asia.
Okay.
So
So it'd be
somehow
like
have
China, Taiwan,
China, Asia,
Japan,
Japan, Korea,
Vietnam.
Thailand, yeah,
Yeah.
Singapore,
Yeah.
Malaysia, like many, many, many Southeast
Okay.
Asian and East
Okay.
Asian countries. And
Okay.
then there's a way lower saving ratio in developed countries.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they will
Yep.
also realize cultural related variables are among the most important saving determinants, along with other variables like commonly believed to be a more important variant, like economic literacy or economic growth or social security. They're actually
Mm,
less compared to the cultural related variables. Those economic variables are less important
important. Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
determining the saving habits. It's actually a
Mm,
very cultural thing rather than a very economic thing.
mm,
But because it's such a cultural thing, it also is not a surprise to learn that immigrants who moved to developed countries
okay.
still keeps their saving habits and save more money compared to born and raised generally like white Canadians, for example,
Yeah.
if using
Yeah.
Canada as example. And this kind of saving tendency and habits actually transcends through generations.
Okay. So
It
it's something
also
that's definitely carried forward in the
So
next
yeah,
and the
carry
next.
forward. Exactly. So that also is another proof of how it's so cultural rather than how it's so economical. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter, that kind of saving money mentality and habit usually is kept in the
Mm,
family.
mm,
This is how
mm,
ingrained it is to our culture.
mm.
And another research is conducted in the UK, but the first conducted in Canada. But then they have a smaller kind of pool, and then they conducted in the UK where they had access
Okay.
to a bigger pool. But both research they found come to that same conclusion
Immigrants
that
save.
immigrants save more money, and that kind of habit also is not just for the first generation move to new country. Actually, it passed down through generations. From that, the conductor also found the country that had the higher saving rates are China and Ireland, and on the lower
Oh,
end are like Pakistan and Uganda.
wow. I feel like it makes a lot of sense because, and we talk about the immigrant experience all the time, but when
Mm-hmm.
you come to a new country, there are so many uncertainties, and you know that without money, you're not going to be able to put food on the table for your family. Like there
Yes.
is this driven, there's so much more out of my control in
Mm-hmm.
this new place. If I can control something, it's going to be my own financial security or my ability to, whether it's to save money to send back at home or to save money for, my kids and my kids' kids. There is an element of like, I can have the agency over my money.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel forced to maybe take out a loan. I think it was Statistics Canada. That came out in 2022. They had basically said that it takes that immigrants are less likely to take out any kind of line of credit or loan within their first 10 years of living in Canada. And I've had
Mm-hmm.
some people say, well, that's because, it takes time to build that credit. Okay, we can go into the reasons why it takes time, right? This made up system that the Western world did create. At the same time, though, it makes a lot of sense that you are in many ways looking to yourself and your own community or your own family to navigate the circumstances in this new world and in this new country. So you're not going to look
Yeah.
to banks. You're not going to look to these foreign institutions you know nothing
Mm-hmm.
about. I mean, there's lots of variables like, financial literacy and just knowing what products are out there or what is safe. But then culturally, like you said, if that is maybe something that's against your religion or tradition or culturally you are more collective, you aren't going to look to those financial institutions to help navigate your life,
I
because
agree. Yeah,
you want that freedom, right? You want that agency.
exactly. I
Yeah.
think so. I think that agency and then the cultural practice as well as and also as I mentioned this, um, like many immigrants come to here with this outlook. They have to hustle. They have to work hard. So they
Yes.
save more money just because in case a rainy day come, right? And then
Hmm.
many of us also look into it as a economic issue. But again, it's actually more
Yeah.
cultural
Yeah.
than economical
Yeah.
reasons.
I
Um,
believe so. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
definitely. And then now that we talk about in the global stage, how in general, how it works, but also in Canada, we also have our own issues, obviously, because Canadians in general are not good at saving. We are not a country that are
No.
keen on saving money. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I do. I look around at the neighborhood that I'm in. I'm like, how did you afford that pillow and this like sauna and all of these things? My husband and I make, decent enough money. And I just don't understand how anyone affords anything. And my husband was like, are you kidding me? Credit cards. Everyone uses credit cards.
Everyone does. Yes, there's this kind of analysis of numbers from the Organization for Economic Operation and Development,
Mhm.
and Canada forecast to save about average save about $1,277 um like per year
Like
on
per
average. Yeah.
year
Yeah,
is
on average.
$1,200.
Yes. $1,200 exactly.
That could buy you maybe a month's worth of groceries. That's
Yeah,
wow.
and this places us in the bottom half of the member countries,
Yes.
behind Ireland, as and the United States. The Americans are predicted to save more than triple that amount. Yeah, compared to
Mm,
the
yeah.
States.
I can see the states. Yeah,
This,
this is so
yeah,
interesting, Hoshin. I mean, I
yes,
really do appreciate you walking us through this and even looking at differences in culture. But I mean, I think it's safe to say that ultimately culture does really, really shape our perception uh, of money, the ways in which we have a relationship with it, and how
yeah,
and what we do with it.
exactly.
And I don't think I recognized or have recognized like how unique each culture can treat money, but this conversation has really illuminated that there are a lot of differences. So,
There's a
uh,
lot of differences, yeah, how
yeah,
we see
yeah.
money.
It's Canadian salad pop quiz. I'm really excited for this
Yes.
because I don't know if maybe you'll know the answers because you did all the research, but I don't think you will. So, do you
Okay,
want me
how
to
about
go
you go
first?
first then? Yes,
Okay.
please do.
Miss Prideful. Okay. So talking about borrowing money, we're going to go back to that. Who are the top 3 countries that have the highest percentage of people who borrow from a formal financial institution? Top 3.
Top three, I would say states.
Okay. And
Canada probably.
okay. And
UK.
okay. And that's your final answer?
Yes.
Okay. So number 3 is Iceland.
Iceland. Oh,
Yes. The
wrong.
second highest is Israel. Interesting. I know. This is data from the World Bank, so we'll include the link
Okay.
in our website. And number 1, baby, is Canada. Canada has the highest
Canada.
amount of borrowers than any other country on the planet, with 81.01% who borrow. And so the states, they are actually 66.20%. And then Taiwan, China, 61.95%. So, and this is borrowed
Oh,
any money from a formal financial institution, and it's data from 2021. So there isn't the next wave will be, I think, 2025. It's every 4 years.
I
So
assume it includes all the credit cards or the line of credit.
yes,
It's a
yes,
borrower, so it doesn't
yes.
matter
It's
how
a
much
borrower.
amount.
Yes,
Yeah, even a
exactly.
dollar borrowed it counts. Okay, a credit card
Hmm.
counts. Okay,
Hmm.
got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
surprising.
Yeah. But Canada's
Yeah,
number 1, baby. So there you go. Which
that
makes
I'm not
sense.
surprised. Yeah,
Savings,
we
like the lowest amount of savings,
exactly.
but high
That's
tax
why it's the highest.
brackets.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Anyway,
All
thank you
right.
for that
Your turn.
data.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
My question is a very simple. We don't have to answer three, just one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Which province is the highest inflation the past year?
Ooh, this is a really good question. I'm gonna say Alberta.
Oh my God! Ding 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 ding!
Really?
Yay! Why Alberta? I would first one I think of that I would think maybe like BC, maybe Ontario, because they're big cities. But it's
Well,
Alberta.
yeah. Do you know the reason why? Did the data say why?
No, I did not look into
Okay.
the
M-
reason.
s-
My apologies.
My theory, everyone, this
Mm-hmm.
is a theory. This isn't fact. There's no data. This is Andrea data. But my theory is because of the oil industry. And with the change in
Oh,
energy, and renewable energy, I do feel like inflation is just higher there but that's my theory. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. So
oh wow. Okay.
anyway,
That can probably true because I did not think about that at all.
yeah. This has been really, really fun. And so I just want to I forget, what are we talking about next time?
Ramadan.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to have some guests on our show, and they're going to talk about experiencing Ramadan in a Western culture and what that is for them. I know it's going to be educational for me because I do have
Same.
Muslim friends, but I don't know all and everything about Ramadan. So do stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, have a lovely week. Enjoy those invasive flowers because they're really pretty and in the spring weather. And we will talk to you next week.
I'll talk to you next week. Okay,
Okay,
bye.
bye.
Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hostion and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avatyan from Pixabay.
This has been a good Drinklin production.